Two people start investing the exact same month, the exact same amount. 10 years later, one's wealthy and the other one quit. Not separated by intelligence, luck, or income, separated by a single year nobody warned them about in advance. There's a moment each investor hits, usually around year 3 or 4, where the math stops making sense. You've been consistent, you haven't touched the money, you've done everything right, and you open the app and the number still looks embarrassing. $500 a month for 4 years is $24,000 out of your paychecks. At 8%, the account has probably added about $4,000 on top. So you're sitting at $28,000. An extra $4,000, that's nice. It's not bad, but that's it. 4 years and the market's contribution is less than 1 year of yours. You're still not feeling the snowball. It feels like one bad month or a couple of big trips could erase the whole thing. That's where most people quit. They decide it isn't working, they got sold a lie, investing isn't worth it, and it's exactly the wrong moment to leave because they're so close. What looks like failure is the part of the curve right before it turns exponential. You know that meme where the guy's digging for diamonds and he turns back one swing before he reaches them? That's it. That's exactly what this is. Here's what nobody tells you about compounding. For a long time, it doesn't feel like growth. It feels like watching a clock tick by. On investing forums, they have a name for this stretch, the flat part. And then 1 year, the clock isn't what's moving, the account is. There's a year when that happens. It's closer than you think, and almost nobody circles it on a calendar. By the end of this video, the number in your account won't look the same to you ever again. The crossover year. The one those two investors split on isn't a feeling. For a typical contribution, it lands around a year 10. So the person who quits at year 4 walks away 6 years early and never finds out how close they were. And knowing the year isn't what saves you. Plenty of people could recite the math and still quit on year 4. Why they quit? That's the real story here. Here's the part that trips everyone up. You want the early years to feel like growth because that's what would tell you it's working. They won't. And deciding something is broken when nothing is broken is what makes people leave. I've watched family and friends do exactly that. They start investing, they don't get rich, or the market turns and they're down for a little while, and they decide this clearly isn't working, it's all a sham, not for them, and it's a shame because nothing was wrong. Nobody had told them how long the flat part lasts, so they read normal as broken. Compounding isn't linear, it doesn't add, it multiplies. And multiplication on a small number is, well, it still gives you a small number. A 10% return on $5,000 is $500. That same 10% on $100,000 is $10,000. On $1 million, it's $100,000. Same return, same discipline, completely different result. The only thing that changed is how much you gave it to work with. I know what you're thinking. You don't have $100,000 yet, let alone $1 million, so you just need a better return. It's not a bad instinct. It's just not the lever yet. Your contributions matter more than your returns. This system matters more than the picks. And you're not behind. This is just the stretch nobody claps for. The math is working slowly because you haven't fed it enough yet. Have you ever had to push a car? The first stretch is brutal. Everything hurts. The wheels are barely turning. You're honestly not sure it's possible. That car is stuck in the snow. Then somewhere in there, the weight stops fighting you. The car picks up its own roll and suddenly you're just steering it. That's compounding. Nobody warns you how long the pushing lasts before the car takes over. Researchers who studied the S&P 500 going back to 1926 found something worth understanding. If you invested for any random 1 year period, you had about a 74% chance of making money. Stretch that to 7 years, and the odds climb a lot. The vast majority of all 7-year periods in the S&P 500 history have produced positive returns. Go longer, and that number climbs toward 100. Inside that window, there's a moment nobody labels for you. It's the year your portfolio's annual market gain, what the market adds on its own, first exceeds what you contributed for the entire year. Put a number on it. At $500 a month, you're putting in $6,000 a year. The crossover is the year the market hands you more than $6,000 on its own. It's the year your money starts working like a second earner, one that contributes as much as you do, and then more. Before that, you're doing almost all the work. Your deposits are the engine. After it, the portfolio takes over. You still contribute, but now the growth feels real. At $500 a month and a standard return, that arrives usually around year 10. The first decade, almost every dollar of growth came from you. After year 10, the account starts outpacing you, and that's when it finally feels like a snowball. That's not inspiration, that's math on a growing base. And if you want a target to aim at, this is why people obsess over the first $100,000. An 8 to 10% return, $100,000 hands you $8,000 to $10,000 a year on its own. That out contributes most people. 7 years smooths out crashes, recoveries, and recessions. Under 7, you're just timing the cycle without knowing where you landed. Did you start at a market top or a bottom? A week before a crash? Past 7 years, it stops mattering as much. That's why they say time in the market beats timing the market. So that's the first number of the video, 7. 7 years is the floor before this stops feeling like nothing. But 7 years only pays off if you're still standing at the end of them. That's the second number. Time alone isn't enough because compounding can't survive catastrophic loss. You want to believe that one great pick can carry you, that conviction is enough. The math disagrees. If you put everything into one position and it drops 60%, it takes a 150% gain just to break even. That's not the snowball working, that's starting over, and starting over resets your 7-year clock to 0. That's why diversification isn't just about returns. It's about surviving long enough for time to do its work. 5 categories, and you don't need to memorize them. The shape is what matters. Broad market index funds as your foundation, dividend stocks for income, small and mid caps for growth, international to catch what your home market misses, and a defensive slice of bonds or cash so you don't panic sell at the bottom. The exact percentages depend on your age and your risk tolerance, but the structure matters more than precision. If you have all 5, you're ahead of most investors. Now, you're not optimizing for the best year. You're not going all in on Bitcoin. And look, it could do great. For people who got in early enough, it beat everything I just listed, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But a bet that has to go right isn't a plan, it's a gamble. You're building a system that survives the worst year. So 7 gives you time, 5 gives you the protection to use it. And this matters more the more successful you become. A 30% drop when your portfolio is $50,000 costs you $15,000. That hurts. The same 30% drop when your portfolio is $500,000 costs you $150,000. That can push back your plan's years. And if you're close to the finish line, it can move the finish line. The bigger the number gets, the more the keep it part of the equation matters than just grow it. You'll hear wealthy people say diversification is for people who don't know what they're doing, and they're right, but only about themselves. They run their own companies, they control the outcomes. For everyone investing through the market, which is most people, diversification isn't ignorance. It's the one structural protection that lets compounding do its work undisturbed. Staying in the game is the whole job. But 7 and 5 only protect the account. They can't protect it from you. Now, here's where most people lose. Not to the market, but to themselves. 3 emotional phases. Every investor goes through them. Knowing them in advance is the only real protection. The first is doubt. It arrives early, usually when a friend is making fast money somewhere else. A coin doubled. Someone turned $1,000 into $5,000, and suddenly your 10% a year looks embarrassing. That's survivorship bias right there. People win loudly and lose quietly, and nobody calls to tell you when the coin went to 0. I made that exact comparison in my early 20s. 10% on $6,000 is $600. $1,000 into a high-risk asset that could go up 5x is $5,000. The math pushed me towards risk. Some of it worked, some of it didn't, and none of it replaced the boring account that was quietly compounding in the background. If I'd fed that account earlier instead, I'd be further ahead today. So here's the honest version, because I'm not going to tell you to never touch risk. If you want the high-risk plays, keep them to a small slice. The diversified core is the retirement plan, the thing that carries you to 60 or 65, whether or not any single bet works out. It won't get you rich quick, but it means you'll have real security later in life. The slice is the experiment. Never confuse the two. And when your brain starts telling you you're doing something wrong, there's a counter thought. What if this actually works? What if the boring strategy, the one that looks like nothing right now, is the one that changes everything in 10 years? It's the one that quiet millionaires, the regular people who got there, swear by. And there's a version of you on the other side of this, one who held it when it felt pointless. That version isn't smarter. They just answer that question differently. The second is frustration. Year 3 or 4, you've put in thousands, the growth still feels tiny. If that frustrates you, congratulations, you're normal. This is where people cash out for something they can touch, a car, a trip, or hand the money to whatever promises to double it fast. The irony is that frustration usually means you're close. The engine is finally warming up, and quitting now is switching the car off mid-warm-up. I live in Canada. In winter, the car takes a while. You wait, or you don't drive. You got to clear that ice off. Nobody cheers when you make your 47th monthly deposit. But that's exactly where the compounding actually happens. The third is panic. The market drops, and it will drop, and the number in your account drops under what you've put in maybe. Fear tells you to protect what's left, but every major crash in modern history has been followed by a full recovery. 2008 recovered by 2013. The 2020 crash recovered in months. The people who sold locked in the loss. The people who held or kept buying came out ahead because they saw prices the way you see a sale at the store. The same thing you already wanted, but cheaper. You've probably heard the Warren Buffett line, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Everyone can quote it. Almost nobody does it because doing it means buying on the day it feels the worst. You can't prevent these phases, but you can decide your response to them before they arrive. 7, 5, 3. There's one number left, and I'm going to be blunt for a second because this is the one everyone skips. It's the smallest of the four. It's the only one you fully control, and you could change it this week. Most people never do because it looks too small to matter, but watch what it does. The final variable is what you contribute. The more you put in, the more you end up with. Yeah, that means earning a bit more or spending a bit less, and nobody loves hearing it, but the change is smaller than you think. You assume the size of the result is decided by the market, by your return rate, by things outside your hands. Mostly it isn't. So here's the math. Invest $300 a month for 30 years at an 8% return, and you end up with around $447,000. Now increase that contribution by just 5% every year. So year 2, you're investing $315, year 3, $331, barely noticeable, and most raises run 3 to 5% anyways per year. So you're really just letting the account keep pace with your income and inflation a bit. That single habit pushes the final number to around $750,000. It's the same 8% return, $300,000 more, from a change that starts at $15 a month. In real terms, that's the difference between working through your 60s and not having to. And if you can put in more than $300 to begin with, it climbs faster. Below the crossover, what you contribute matters more than what you pick. You can't pick your way across a gap that's years wide. And the risk it takes to try usually sets you back further. Every extra dollar you redirect into the boring account closes the distance to the year it starts outworking you. And I'll be straight with you. You can only cut spending so far. At some point, the fastest way to raise the contribution is to raise income. That's the lever most people never pull. That's what compounding actually is. It's not a get-rich-quick mechanism. It's a get-rich-eventually one. Get-rich-quick can leave you broke, and get-rich-eventually rewards the people who stay consistent, stay protected, stay calm, and quietly increase their stake every year. And if you've still got the itch for the risky stuff, same as I do, make it a decision, not an impulse. Next time, you skip the $8 coffee, move that $8 right into your high-risk account. Do that enough, and your experiments run on money you chose not to burn, not on your future. Go back to those 2 investors at the beginning, the ones who started the same month with the same amount. Now you can see the year they split apart. Not a year of brilliance or luck, it was the year the boring account quietly began doing more work than its owner, and only one of them was still there to collect it. The other left during the flat part because nobody told them the flat part is the whole point. Nobody warned them, so I'm warning you. Boring is the feature. You automate it, you stop checking it every morning, and you let it run in the background while you get on with your life. No refreshing the app to see if you're up or down today. Your attention goes to where it should. Your income, your people, your life. The results don't come when you want them. They come when the math is ready. All the upside you want is on the other side of uncertainty and delay. Everyone who stayed invested through the doubt, through frustration, through panic, through the years when the number looked embarrassing, was on the right side of the equation the whole time. They just couldn't see it yet. 7 years of commitment, 5 categories of protection, 3 emotional phases to outlast, and 1 small annual increase that changes everything. That's the 7-5-3-1 framework. 7 for time, 5 for protection, 3 for nerve, and 1 for fuel. The framework is simple. The discipline is the hard part. But the people who reached the year those 2 investors split on, they always say the same thing. They wish they started sooner, and they're glad they didn't quit. So honestly, can you make it to year 7? Maybe you already have. Maybe you're on year 1 or year 5 or year 0. I don't know your journey. Feel free to drop it below in the comments. The next video is about the number everyone in this game obsesses over, the first 100,000. People will tell you it's the hardest money you'll ever make, and they're right. Most of them also believe the next 100,000 is going to be just as hard. That part is wrong, and the reason is the same crossover you just learned. That is the vantage point. Most people never stop long enough to see it. Drop a comment with the year you started investing or the year you're planning to. If this shifted something, a like helps it reach someone who needs the same view. Subscribe for the next framework. The next video is already worth your time.